We do a lot of talking about the games themselves here on this channel, especially strategy RPGs, but I think it's worthwhile to discuss the actual process of developing them and look a little bit into the insights of the people who make these games that we all love so much. And today, we're going to do just that. My name is Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman, and welcome back to the channel. Hello everyone. If you enjoy what I do, including my coverage of turn-based strategy RPGs, regular RPGs, or the gaming sphere in general, a like on this video, a subscription to the channel, and consideration to check out Grey Heritage, Faded Vision, or any of BTrain Studios' other games on Steam would be very much appreciated. I'm not sponsored, he didn't ask me to do this, but it is his content that we are covering today in this video, so I think it would be worthwhile for you to go and check out his stuff on Steam and show him a little bit of support, because his games look pretty dang solid, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So, who is BTrain? BTrain is actually an individual, an indie solo dev who's made now one and is working on a second Fire Emblem style, like old school SNES, GBA era Fire Emblem style indie games as a complete solo dev, which is very impressive. Apparently he's been a fan of the channel for a while, has been watching my content for a while, and I've had every intention of checking out his games for a while. I've been following the dev process for his latest title, and I've been having my eye on Grey Heritage Faded Vision, his original title, and just haven't had time to fit it into the schedule yet, but I do want to check it out. Now, recently, he put out this, Why Nobody Gives About Your Game. This is a very interesting little insight from an indie dev who has made now one and is nearly done with another indie games, kind of musing on why things are kind of very difficult in the indie scene right now. And I've heard this sentiment from other indie devs as well, who I've either spoken to about it directly or whom I've seen talking about it on social media and the like. And as someone who very, very strongly believes in supporting your indie devs, looking out for them, being patient with them, being understanding of the trials and tribulations that come with making games, I thought I would do something I've never really done on the channel before. We're going to do a reaction video to this video. Now, I know some people have opinions about doing reaction type content. It's not my favorite type of thing to watch or anything, but I'd like to shed some light on this topic and have a discussion about it, because of course I have my own feelings as well, and bring some attention to what it is that BTrain has going on here. If this is something that we could turn into an ongoing series where we kind of get dev insights, maybe even start doing interviews with people, I would love to do that, because any use that I can bring from my platform to get more eyes on these games beyond just playing them would be good, because there's a lot of talented people out there, a lot of passionate people out there, and to see a game fail or struggle just because it doesn't get attention, that's rough, and that's kind of the topic of this video. I've not watched the video myself yet. We're going to give it one straight watch through here. It's almost not even quite 5 minutes long, so it won't be a very long watch. And then we'll go through and we'll discuss different points that come up as we go. So check it out for yourself. Give the man some views. Subscribe to his channel so you can get some insight into the dev process and what he has going on with his projects. And we'll see what there is to see here.
Hey, what's up guys, it's BTrain here. I'm going to give you guys 5 reasons why nobody gives a fuck about your game. Reason number 1, your game is just not fun. Say you release a demo or when you just release the game and nobody is talking about it, that's a really bad sign. The reason why is because word of mouth marketing is so important. If somebody plays your game and they're not willing to play it, finish it, and tell their friends about it, it means the game just wasn't that good. So I know it's something a lot of game devs don't want to hear about. Like, they work so hard on this project and nobody cares about it. It hurts, but if your game's not fun enough, nobody's going to talk about it and nobody's going to care about it. This is why this is my number 1. There's a lot of different reasons why people don't care about your game, but if your game is just not fun, nobody's going to talk about it. Nobody's going to care about it. And that's the unfortunate part. You're just going to have to get good at game design at that point.
I really like some of the animations here.
Reason number 2, wrong genre. So there's a lot of genres where people make too many games of. An example is like puzzle platformers. Like, there's a lot of them, and you know, people just don't want to buy it. I think something people need to keep in mind is that when you're releasing a game, you're releasing it on Steam. Steam have certain genres that they prefer and other genres they don't care about, right? Steam love RPGs, you know, strategy games, deep, complex games, things like that.
City builders, things like that.
A lot of us indie game developers, we like games that we were growing up with, right? But say like you make a puzzle platformer, we're not making a game on the Super Nintendo anymore. We're making a game on Steam. It's a very different marketplace. So picking the right genre is really important. There's a reason why there's certain genres where people just buy all the time, right? There's a lot of vampire survivor clones. There's a lot of farming sims. And if you go through the tag and like check how many reviews they have and stuff, like those games sell well because people on Steam like that genre. They care about that genre, and that's what's important. All right, reason number 3, the game is for you, but it's not for the audience. So something I've realized while talking to other indie game developers is that we're all kind of quirky and we're all a little weird. And when we make a game, like sometimes it doesn't really resonate with the audience. And I think it's important to know when that is the case. And it is important to have your own style, right? I'm not saying don't be yourself, but if you make a game and it's not for an audience, but it's just for you, you're not going to make a valuable game, and other people are not going to care about it, right? To make a really special game, you need to make a game that's for yourself and for other people. Some middle ground is really important to make a valuable game that people will care about. All right, reason number 4, there's a high demand of polish. This really depends on the genre. So I'll use open world RPG, for example. Those games have a lot of depth and polish that's needed for people to care about it. All right, but let's just say, you're making like a hentai game, for example. The standard's very low. The only thing that's important is that the characters are hot enough, right? Like, there's
not where I was
certain genre
expecting
has
that to go.
high demand of polish, and you're gonna have to meet that quality when you're making your game. That's really important. All right, and my last reason is hooks. This one's very important. If your game does not sound like a good headliner, the press is not going to care about your game, and then the players is not going to care about your game. I would not say hook is the number 1 reason to make your game special and for people to care about it, but it is very important. If you want people to try out your game, it needs to have a good hook, at least good enough for the press to want to write about it. If the press care enough about your game and think, hey, some people are going to click on this headliner, then you got a good idea. It's a good hook. If you don't have that hook, then you're going to have to rely on word of mouth marketing. You're going to have to rely on your genre. The game has to be polished enough. There's a lot more extra steps to get people to try out your game. But if you have a good hook, then you're in there. All right, that is it for me, guys. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you guys next time. Hey, if you guys want to support the channel, make sure to wishlist Grey Heritage Noble Duty. It's part of the Grey Heritage series that I've made in SRPG Studio. If you guys want to play a release game, I also have Grey Heritage Faded Vision. Make sure to check those out. Links is in the description.
Yes, absolutely. And I will have, this is early 2025, I will have links to both of these games in the description of this video as well, so you can go and check them out. I absolutely want to check out the Grey Heritage games. When Noble Duty drops, I want to check that out, and I want to play the original prior to that as well, so we can kind of know what's going on, because I'm assuming it's a direct sequel story-wise, but... Okay, some interesting points here for sure. We'll just go through them right in order. First of all, like, a game not being fun. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of obvious, right? But I do this as well when I do my videos, is like, get the obvious thing out of the way first, especially for tips videos and stuff like that, because you have to have that base level entry point to get people in the door to understand where you're kind of going. So I totally get putting this first. And I mean, it is true. Like, it kind of ties into the making a game for yourself and not for the audience thing that is mentioned later in the video as well, where there are certain things that maybe you as a creator enjoy, but that the audience at large maybe doesn't. Or maybe it's just something that hasn't been play tested enough or workshopped enough, doesn't have the level of engagement that you need to match your audience and your genre. So yeah, I mean, can't really argue against that, right? No one really wants to play a game that isn't fun. I don't think we have to spend too much time on that. But yeah, it's fair. And you know what? Sometimes it can be hard for people to look at something I made and be like, is this fun though? Like, of course it has to be fun. I made it, right? Having a little bit of self-perspective there, important. Wrong genre. This is, where is it there? Yeah. That's tough. Yeah, I mentioned when we were watching it, like, roguelikes. There's nothing wrong with making a roguelike at all. Like, in fact, I like that there are games coming out. There's turn-based strategy games coming out that have roguelike elements. The Sword of Convalaria, which is actually dropping the night that I'm recording this video, it has roguelike elements. That's kind of part of its whole deal. Together in Battle and Telepath Tactics, 2 games made by the Sinister Design Studios, who've been interacting with me, and I've been trying to find the time to do their stuff as well, because it also looks really fun. a selling point of those games that they have a roguelike element to them. It's something that I do enjoy from a game design standpoint, and it's interesting to see how people are going to start integrating that into a genre like turn-based strategy where it hasn't really existed before, outside of sort of ish roguelike, not really, but kind of rewinding mechanics stuff, like with Tactics Ogre. It's pretty much the only example of anything like that I can think of that I've at least seen myself. Not the arbiter of all things turn-based strategy, but I do have a pretty wide net. That can be really challenging, though, because so many people want to make games like that because they sell well, because they are engaging. You can continuously put out new content for it, so you get people coming back, buying the game, continuing to play the game, keeping metrics up. There's a lot going for that genre. Things like the Vampire Survivors clones that BTrain mentioned here, same type of deal. A lot of engagement. You can keep adding content to it. It's very quick to pick up, easy to do runs, then put it back down. People like to have snappy stuff like that. And so then when those genres become popular, obviously people want to make more games like that because they sell well, they do well, they're commercially successful. There's a lot that you can do with those genres. But then you hit a saturation point where it's like, oh, man, like another roguelike, I'm good. If it's not unique in some way, like a roguelike turn-based strategy, okay, that's interesting, that's unique. But just like, oh, it's a Hades clone, or it's like an Into the Gungeon clone, or it's a Binding of Isaac clone, or whatever, like, you really have to do stuff to make yourself stand out in a situation like that, otherwise the genre is just going to be brutal. On the flip side of that, you do need to play into the genres that are popular to a certain extent. Like, turn-based strategy games are experiencing quite a bit of a renaissance right now, so you're seeing a lot more indie and AA, AAA projects. 5-10 years ago, that was not the case. The genre was, like, anemic. I wouldn't say dead, because there was still some stuff that came out, like Fell Seal, Arbiter's Mark, Fire Emblem games, stuff like that, but it was rough out there. We are in such a good spot for turn-based strategy games right now, to the point that I can't keep up with all of them. So knowing what genres are going to work is a big part of things, for sure. Next up, it's just for you. I think this is going to be one of the biggest ones, because this is one of the things with doing anything creative commercially that I think is really hard for people to handle. And I mean, I can speak on this just from my own experiences doing YouTube, right? I started out doing Let's Plays and wanting to do just gameplay content like that, because it's a lot of the content that I enjoyed, that I consumed all the time on YouTube in my high school days, my early college days, and even to this day, honestly. And so I wanted to be able to make stuff like that because it's what I enjoyed. However, especially as a new channel, trying to make a name for myself, people just weren't interested. There's gameplay is a dime a dozen on Twitch, on YouTube, in episodic series, in streams. It's all over the place. You are fighting against an endless current trying to make any sort of headway in a situation like that. The algorithm doesn't like it. The formats that people enjoy have changed. Like, people prefer longer form stuff or streams over episodic content. You have to know your audience and do stuff that's going to be enjoyable by them and not just for yourself. For something that's an interactive medium like games, infinitely more so. Like, take that lesson and magnify it by 25, and you're probably in the ballpark of what you actually need to consider for something like game design. Like, you can love a particular type of system, right? For me, I love permadeath. I love games that have mandatory permadeath. I love the way that it forces you to actually consider systems and strategy and actually care about losing your characters and engage with the mechanics of the game as a result. Games where you can just, like, let a bunch of people die, so long as you finish the mission, it's fine. They can still be engaging and fun and challenging, but there's a certain bite that's missing there, you know? A lot of people disagree with me on that. A lot of people disagree with me on that. I remember there being a lot of pushback when I was talking about my disappointment that Unicorn Overlord was apparently not going to have permadeath, even though it actually eventually kind of does with True's Neuron mode, but, you know, whatever. So many people were like, oh, permadeath, bad mechanic, should never be in a game. I would prefer that they just don't have it at all. It's not worth the dev resources. You shouldn't design a game around it. I'm like, damn, y'all like to be spoon-fed, huh? I know I'm going to get some heated comments for that, but I mean, I truly believe that in a game like your Fire Emblems, your Final Fantasy Tactics, whatever, and there's different ways to go about it, but having something like that, a real tangible punishment for screwing up or even just getting unlucky, is part of the experience and makes you a better player. by making you actually care about what options the game is giving you. But I know that that's not going to resonate with a lot of people, so if I was making a game, even if I was going to have permadeath in, I would know that I would have to include a toggle or something. Like maybe have permadeath be a toggle to turn it on. I don't know, but that is absolutely an aspect that you would need to make sure you were accounting for not just what you enjoy, but what the audience is going to enjoy. Even if what the audience enjoys maybe goes against what you like. And of course you need to be happy with what it is that you're making, right? Because otherwise, what's the point of doing something creative unless you're literally just trying to make money off of it? And I don't think you're going to make a very good game that way, because game design is such a passion. But you got to find that middle ground. So this is probably the biggest single point that I think is the most important takeaway from BTrain's video here. But that said, let's look at the other two. Polish. Polish is... This is a tough one, man, because everyone has a different definition of what polished is. Like some of the critiques and Steam reviews, and I mean, y'all know I have my my own personal bias against Steam reviews as of late. But in reviews, just in casual chatter, in comments, stream chat, like all this different stuff, the number of times I've seen someone be like, oh, well, this game just needs to be more polished. And meanwhile, it's like, if you polish this anymore, it's going to turn into a literal physical diamond. Like, let's give these devs a little bit of slack, all right? Willing to throw them into the polish mines, be putting their blood, sweat, and tears literally into making this the absolute pinnacle project, especially when we're talking indie stuff. Like, BTrain is a full-time job. He just put out a video today that I'd like to check out as well, talking about doing game dev as someone with a full-time job. I work nearly full-time at a, like, real-life job, and then also do YouTube full-time. Like, there's only so much that someone working on something in a solo capacity can manage while still getting a product out in a timely manner and actually trying to make a living off of what it is that they're doing, right? Like, again, not to always make it about me, but of course my understanding is couched in my own experience of the world. I could sit and edit every single little video and just minutely tweak every script, every little thing I do on the channel, but you guys would get like a video every 2 weeks if I did that. I'd rather get a game that is like a solid 8 out of 10 that needs some more work put into it to polish it up to a 9 or a 10 over the course of a couple of years. That so long as it's like feature complete and fairly bug free, like for your indie devs especially, give them more time to put effort into really maximizing the graphics or really rounding out some mechanics. As long as a core is there, that's the key. But unfortunately, again, a lot of people are going to be like, why would I play this when I could go play Triangle Strategy or Tactics Ogre, which have like God only knows how many dozens, if not hundreds of devs on it, and thousands upon thousands of man hours put into it to make it an insane team-based project. Like, it's a completely different scope. So, yeah, polish is a rough one. Obviously, you need to have it, but figuring out what degree of it you need and at what point you've kind of hit the threshold of, I could put more time into polishing this, but at what cost of maybe lost sales or lost interest after my marketing tends to die down. It's a tough balancing act to have, man, and I don't envy any dev who's trying to figure out how to walk that tightrope, because that is really, really rough, important as it is. And then finally, hooks. Hooks, this is a very genre-specific issue, I think. Like, right now, your hook can be, I'm making a Fire Emblem style turn-based strategy game, or I'm making a Final Fantasy Tactics style turn-based strategy game, or an XCOM style, or a Front Mission style. Just saying the name of a well-established genre titan, like some of those games, is immediately going to get a large chunk of your fan base, or your potential fan base, or your potential audience interested. Now, as time goes by and more inundation happens, that's going to die off a little bit. Fire Emblem has had a lot of games come out recently, or that are currently in development, that are going for a similar style. So that's going to become less valuable as a hook, just being like, I'm doing this thing, but indie and with these changes. That's not going to always get you where you need to be. Now, for more niche stuff like Front Mission, like, we've got Krieg's Front Tactics coming around. I did the prologue for that recently on the channel. there's really very little else that's very front mission like. That gritty military turn-based mecha combat. So they're in a really good position to just be like, this is a front mission style game, and then here's all of our cool, personal, flavorful, different mechanical things that we're doing. People are like, all you had to say was more front mission. Anything on top of that, I'm in. I'm sold. So for turn-based strategies, the hook is very easy in a lot of ways. Now, I want to downplay the difficulty of figuring out interesting things to do, but it's far easier. For something that's far more inundated, like we were talking about roguelikes, or like Vampire Survivor style games, or anything like that, you gotta have a lot more going on. It can't just be the thing, but slightly different. It has to have much deeper, more evolutionary things going on to make people go, oh, this is Vampire Survivors, but in a brand new way. That's interesting. Now I want to check that out. So yeah, having a hook is really genre dependent. If you are someone who is like a turn-based strategy dev, I think you do have a lot more room to rely on the names of the greats that came before you that you're taking inspiration from to get people in the door, and then can spend more time introducing your own twists and mechanics. Whereas someone who's maybe doing something that's a lot more popular and a lot more well-rounded in terms of the number of games in that genre, you have a much harder time getting your foot in the door and really need to emphasize and strengthen your unique values and mechanics to make people take notice of you. So it's definitely a tough one. It's massively important, but you might be in luck if you're trying to do something that's a little bit smaller at the moment. All told, this is a very, very interesting little video. A quick little bit of insight into an indie dev's perspective on how the whole indie process works, what you need to be doing, what you need to be looking for. And if you are perhaps an indie dev yourself or someone who's worked on games, I would love to see what your thoughts are on this in the comments. Strike up a conversation. You know, maybe BTrain himself will be down there discussing, or again, like Sinister Design could be down there having a conversation, or you know, other creators like myself who are on the opposite side of the coin, do a lot of time analyzing games, but don't maybe have the experience of developing them ourselves. It's a very good, healthy place and good topic to have conversations about, and I'd like to see that happening in the comments. With that said, though, thank you, BTrain, for putting out this video. Thank you for giving me permission to do my first ever like live reaction and discussion of a video. It was actually a lot of fun. I see why people do this, and I'd love to do more stuff like it in the future. If you would like that, let me know that down in the comments as well, and I will see you about doing it in the future. But for now, my name has been Tom, otherwise known as Titanium Legman. I hope you all have a good night. Stay safe and healthy out there, and remember, be good to each other. Bye now, everybody.